As a competitive athlete, when your kids started growing up, was it hard to deprioritize your fitness and your training that might have used to be prioritized over your family to then shift that to be family first, then fitness? Was that a tough transition?
Yeah, I mean, that was a tough transition. I think what ended up happening is I started to recognize, like, started creating this, like, gotta go, where I just show up to the gym, my training partners be like, dude, I gotta go. And I just gotta go. Like, we gotta get right into it. And I think that this goes back to what we were talking about with men thinking they don't have enough time. At this point, what I get more than anything is guys saying, hey, I'm gonna show up for your men's club workout. And I just like, okay, good, dude. Or like, I'll be at a party, I'll be like, hey man, like I'm ready to get after it. I'm like, dude, cool, awesome. Like, I'm no longer following up with people. I send out a weekly email and text telling people where I'm gonna be at and what we're gonna do on the weekend. And if they show up, they show up. But I think this idea that, like, guys, they want to work out. They want to do it. They really do. But they can't get past, like, that first initial hurdle. And what I would tell people is, like, consolidate your time, give yourself 30 minutes, give yourself an hour. And if you don't have that in your schedule, like, start prioritizing differently. And that's what I had to do when I started having a child, prioritize different, 2 children, prioritize different, and take my training block that I knew I needed and just wake up earlier or consolidate down from a 90-minute session midday to an hour session because 30 minutes of it was me on my phone, right? Those were the things that I had to make changes on, not so much like, because I still wanted to win the CrossFit Games. So I wouldn't reduce my training. I would just reduce the downtime. You know what I mean? And I think for any guy listening who says, hey, I don't have time to train, it's like, dude, you do. Like, I keep a sandbag in the back of my truck and it's 80 pounds. And anytime I'm out of practice, I'll back squat with it, or I'll run on the track during practices. And people say, well, then you're not watching the whole practice. Like, dude, for the first 45 minutes of practice, they're warming up, they're doing drills anyways. I could get in 45 minutes for myself that is only gonna help me show up better for the rest of the family for the rest of that day. And I think that once we start reframing it, that people do have time and that you don't need to put on a pedestal and that something is more than nothing, I think that's the key.
Can we go back to when you would approach your training partner and say, gotta go?
Yeah.
That resonated with me a lot right there, because I feel like my schedule and timeline is very tight now that I have 2 kids, I have a wife, I have a business, fitness is a priority, we're creating content. Like, it's a busy schedule. And when things get thrown into my schedule that throw off that timeline that I had allocated for the day, I feel like I'm falling behind or I'm rushing sometimes. So if I'm in the gym and I allocate 60 minutes to the gym, but then someone pulls me aside, starts having a conversation, I am looking at my watch thinking, I'm losing minutes right now. I gotta go. Is that what you mean by that?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, we called it the gotta go program. And like, it was just like, people knew that when I walked in the gym, what I do, and I still do this to this day. And I walk into the gym, I walk into my garage, I know what I'm doing for my program, right? And I'll start a clock. Put a clock on the wall. And this is way I used to do with all my training partners in the CrossFit, big time. This is always what we would do. I'd walk in, be like, what's up, everybody? Fired up. Like, dude, like, because I'm fired up to see them, because it only makes my life better, because that energy is so infectious, right? You know the way it goes.
Yeah.
I'd start a clock, be like, guys, clock's starting. At minute 10, I'm doing this workout. You could join me or you don't, but at minute 10, when that clock hits 10, we're going. Like, and so what would end up happening is, and I just have countless memories of this, is you'd have people like, you know, they kind of bullshit for a minute or two, and then all of a sudden be like, oh shoot, we're starting at minute 10. So they'd start throwing the clamps on, the weights, and I mean, they would be bow, 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 like a NASCAR circuit, you know, trying to get the barbells ready. But sure enough, we'd start right on time because we had a clock holding us accountable. And that's what I do today is whether I'm in the morning, like one of the things I do with my son and my daughter, but I'll just start a clock. Be like, hey man, we're gonna train for 15 minutes. Boom. We're gonna do this. Like, but just using the clock as an indicator, I think, is important.
I think a lot of people waste a lot of time. That's why
of course they waste a lot of time.
They never get to the things they want to do. It makes me think back to, I got so angry a few weeks ago. I showed up, and I usually train by myself, but I decided to train with this group a few weeks ago and do a workout, which is very rare for me, especially a group that I don't train with regularly. And the workout was supposed to start at 6:30 a.m. sharp, which is late for me. I kick off my morning run every morning, 5 a.m. So the workout was supposed to start at 6:30 a.m. So I was like, all right, this is going to be a 90-minute workout and it's 25 minutes away from home. I want to be home at a certain time to help out with morning routines with the family. 6:30 hits, people are still rolling in. 6:40 hits, people are still rolling in. 6:45 hits, people are putting their shoes on. 7 hits, I'm like, all right, like now I'm pissed because my timeline is all thrown off because you couldn't show up on time to achieve the standard. And like, this is why people don't do the things they say they want to do or achieve the things they say they want to accomplish, or they don't have time for their fitness, is because they're not forward thinking, backwards planning, and holding themselves accountable to that timeline.
Well, and maybe they just don't care. So like, I guess the way I'd kind of put it back on you or them is like the standard wasn't set. Meaning like, I'll take, for example, my training crew. The standard was set that for me, it was the Gotta Go program. But for them, it wasn't. And that's okay. Like, I don't judge them. So for example, I had plenty of people on my team that we trained with who had more time than I had for a variety of reasons. So if they want to spend 3 hours in the gym bullshitting and training, go for it, right? But I just clearly expressed my desire, right? Like, and I guess something I've had to learn over the years, like, who am I to tell somebody that they shouldn't spend 3 hours in the gym? If that's a part of like who you are and you have the time, go for it if it makes you happy. But for me, like, for example, with your thing, like the men's club, when we put out the workout, we start at 6:30 every Saturday morning in a parking lot. Everybody knows that the timeline is from 6:30 to 7:15. That's it. And I will not be a minute late or a minute early because I want to prioritize their time because I know that they're busy husbands and fathers and need to get back to their lives. But if that expectation isn't set with your crew, it's hard, right? Because then you're on a different sheet of music than everybody else is. And I've had that happen to me before. And it's easy for me to get frustrated. And I've just had to be like, guys, I need to start at 6:30. If you can't start at 6:30, I just can't be there. That's what I've had to do.
It's actually a great point. That if expectations in the standard is not communicated and set, even though it may be assumed, you can't be mad at anyone else. And it kind of goes back to how we started this whole conversation is be focused on your house instead of worrying about the White House or someone else's house and those distractions. And sometimes you have to set the conditions to facilitate that goal that you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, like I know that in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, for example, I know that if the class says it's going to start at noon, in general, it doesn't start till like 12:15. And I know that. And I just have to be okay with that. And I know that it's going to go a little bit long, but I just plan my day around it probably going long. But if I'm on a crunch, like I think that setting the expectation, like, hey, we're starting at 6:30, we're finishing at this time, and that's all we got, has been really helpful for me when training with a lot of partners. Because everyone has a different expression of like, oh, when you say 6:30, we talking 6:30? We talking like 6:38, start the workout around 7, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Have a cup of coffee, talk about life, because there is some value there too. But it's just not the value you're looking for, because what you're looking for is to get in, get out. And so I'd recommend any guy listening, dude, find a program, right? I have a Train Hard app. We have a bunch of different programs that could help you out, but have a program in mind, know what you want to do, go in there, crush it, and get on with your day. And you'll realize that you only need 30 to an hour of structured time to really get a big impact on your fitness.
Yeah, I agree with that.